Welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. On each episode, we interview recovering addicts and learn their story with addiction. Through exploring personal journeys, we get a glimpse of the depths addicts fall to and their path in recovery. We hope you enjoy the episode. All right, everybody, welcome to the Fourth Step Podcast. My name is Kevin, and I am an addict.
Hello, Kevin. My name's Josh. I'm an addict.
Josh, our lovely co-host. Today, we're doing something special. It's going to be different, and we're not doing the usual four-step. We have in the studio with us today is a dear friend and mine, and at one time, Josh's trauma therapist. And this is...
Jennifer Young. Hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm happy to be here. Delighted to be
Yeah.
here.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Well, Josh and I were throwing around the idea after your and my last session. He was excited about it.
I have a moose tattooed on my arm from a session that I had.
Oh, your spirit animal.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's right. The moose tattoo.
Yep.
Yeah. And how did that come about?
The moose tattoo?
Yeah.
Just in a session, meditation, finding a spirit animal. I actually,
The spirit animal.
yeah, I convinced myself it was a bear, and then I couldn't tell what it was as it was like coming out of like I was in my safe place in the meditation alongside a river, looking at a tree line. Something was coming out of the tree line, and I made it a bear, and it turned into a moose. And then I was like, no, it's a bear. And I turned it back into a bear, and it turned back into a moose again. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then I did it one more time, and it was a moose. But when it became a moose, it was like forehead to forehead with me. And it was unbelievable, the feelings that I was experiencing. Like I felt like I was a fucking moose.
That's
like
awesome.
It was one of the
I
most
love
powerful
the story
meditations.
about you trying to control the situation.
Dude,
and,
yeah.
and whatever the
It tripped me
source
out.
was said, no, Josh.
It was weird, dude. I was like, no, it's definitely a bear. It's definitely a bear.
That is so beautiful because that happens literally all the time. And I'll tell the story of the veteran that is calling in the lion or the tiger, and you were calling in the bear. And I'll say, don't intentionally bring something in, let it show up. And then the old wise wolf shows up and lets them know that sometimes brains are better than brawn. And for you, you had a moose that was able to basically probably provide nurturing and stability for you.
Strength,
there.
yeah.
Strength.
Yeah, that was it was like this. I've never felt anything like it before. It was crazy.
Okay, so that's the intention with the work that I do, because we are activating the dormant neurobiology of attachment in your nervous system. The same chemicals are getting released as if you were getting breastfed. So oxytocin, mu-opioids, and prolactin. And that is what we're up to. And your subconscious and cellular memory will give you the animal that is here for your highest healing. It's so fabulous and fascinating. Every time I had a 19-year-old woman in there who her mom was in recovery. She brought her daughter in because it was an enmeshment. So the daughter was at home. She didn't have a job, wasn't in school, wasn't up to much, and mom was concerned about this codependency and enmeshment with mom. And an orangutan showed up, and that represents relationship with mother.
An orangutan does?
Yes. And
Wow.
yes. And this weekend I had a weekend intensive, and a client had like many different animals for different ages, but I'd never seen. She ended up swinging in the elephant's trunk to help her to feel safe and nurtured and protected.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
it is. It's so, that's what I love about the work. You can really take people, and then
I always thought the idea was stupid. Someone was like, "Oh, my spirit animal." I'm like, "That's fucking retarded."
well,
And then it happened.
Say that word.
I just said it, so
Okay.
I'll try not to.
Well,
Thanks.
it's different when you're doing it in a meditative state, and we're using it intentionally for neurobiology. And the other aspect, one of my dear friends who was an incredible trauma therapist, he's also in recovery for since he was 17, and he's 47 now. His name's Curtis Bazanski. He has a therapeutic place in Citrus Heights, but I just lost a train of thought. But
Was it connected to the spirit animal?
the spirit animal? He just did a training with a bunch of clinicians, a lunch and learn, and he talked about dopamine 1 and dopamine 2, and how we will, that's what we're getting after with our substance addictions is the dopamine hit, whether it's with you're using that with relationships, or you're using that with substances. And dopamine 2 is what we hit for you. And so he will get people activated.
You meaning Josh.
Yes, sorry, Josh. And dopamine 2 is that experience you had with the moose. And then he'll say to the person in recovery, would you choose that or your drug?
That I was literally thinking in my head, I'm like, I have done a lot of different drugs, and I've done a lot of different combinations of drugs many times. And as silly as I thought the idea was, I was blown away. I've literally, to this day, I have never felt anything more powerful than the moment that I had with the moose in my head. It was unreal. Like, I literally felt more whole than I've ever felt in my entire life.
Yes.
What's interesting about that is when Jennifer and I were getting to this point where I was trying to find my safe space, because my childhood, and Jennifer has complete permission to use anything I've ever shared with her. So my entire life is in your, literally it's in your hands. You could share whatever you want about our case together. But when we were trying to get me to the safe space.
What was your safe space?
I've always been attracted and felt at peace and super connected to the redwood forest. That's where I would rather be at any point in my life, is in a redwood forest. And then she asked me, what do I see? What do I smell? What's the feel? And I felt the furry bark of the redwood tree. And like that hits me, right? And then what animal do I see? And I was like confused. And like she said, first thought. My first thought was deer. I see deer. And I had no idea because my wife and I have been using medicine cards. We follow Native American stuff.
Yes, and this is Native American. I was trained by a shaman, and she taught me this. Okay,
there you go.
Yes, that's
so
where that
so
came
that
from.
animal that showed up was deer, and then you said, "Well, deer is an animal that represents safety." And you explained, and what else?
And being kind and gentle to ourselves and others.
That's it. So that is, and my sponsees over the years since then have always heard me say, I wake up with the intention to be walked through the day with, to be kind to myself and others.
Yeah, try not to cause harm to yourself or anyone else.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I try not to cause harm to myself or others.
And the first animal I saw when we came here today were the deer.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Isn't that cool?
This is
They
amazing.
this is a Bambi house for sure. There's deer everywhere.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so that made total sense to me. The more that I understood what you were explaining to me about what the deer represents is that in reality, like if you're seeing deer around and they're just eating and grazing, there's no threat. So whenever I like see the deer, that's one of the thoughts that goes through my head is I'm safe.
So what does a session look like with you for people that haven't done trauma therapy before?
That's a good question.
Like, let's say I just walk in the door, or Kevin just walks in the door. We're like, hey, I'd like to have some trauma therapy.
Yes. So
and that begins the first session.
Well, and so I would say when someone's coming in, I let them know that the first 3 or 4 sessions, which working with me, they're 75-minute sessions. They're not a typical 50 or an hour session with a clinician. And so I'm doing a lot of intake and assessment. So I'm asking, what is your goal? Once you graduate from here, what is it that you want to have resolved? And so for Kevin, it was his rage, anger issue was primary.
Yeah.
And so there will be either mood symptoms, whether that's anxiety, depression, rage, bipolar, ADHD, OCD. So you're looking at mood, or you're looking at dysfunctional behavioral patterns where, people come in and they'll say, "Oof, my picker is off. I cannot get into a relationship and into a healthy relationship." And so they want to help resolve that. Others, if people are in active addiction, right? I'll ask that we get them stable and sober first, not in active addiction, and then we'll drop in. So they would have to go to another clinician. I'm not going to be working with someone that's in active addiction. And then
what's the most common symptom that you see people seeking relief from or help for? What do you see people targeting or saying, like, I struggle with this more so than others?
Does one stand out? Or
I would say, it's so quote unquote basic, right? Is depression and anxiety and I would say that's why people go into therapy, but I'm more the surgeon, I'm the specialist. So I say we need to get you to a primary care physician, or meaning a primary therapist first, so that you can, learn some of the basic skills and get as far as you can get with cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the first stage of therapy. And then by the time they're coming to me, you'll see this is how Kevin came. He had a primary therapist. And if they aren't able to resolve something, they keep just butting up against it, then that primary therapist knows, oh, this is trauma related. If I continue to do a behavior, even though it makes absolutely no sense, and I know that it's wrong, then I need to see a trauma therapist.
That's the story of an addict's life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
That's I remember because like my wife and youngest son approached me and said we should go to family counseling, and I'm all for counseling, so I said yeah. And they said we're concerned about your reactions to everything. And so we went and we had individual sessions with her, as long as the family session too. And in my individual session, she says, I'm going to refer you to somebody. She's a trauma therapist. I believe you have PTSD. And I told her, like, I've never been to war. I've never been in the military. I don't know if you know what you're talking about.
It's such a relative thing.
Yeah. And
so
she
relative.
explained to me what PTSD was, because I only had one view of it.
Right. War, veterans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was willing, and I went and saw you, and you said, oh, yeah, you're fucked up. She didn't say that. She didn't say that. She said,
I'll say it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I believe I can help you.
So you start on the intake process with them. You kind of figure out what their hope is, or what they feel like what their target is for the therapy.
For therapy.
And then what happens after that?
And then we're also doing intake around and assessment around their family of origin. So this work, because it is from a very somatic and neurobiological perspective, which I'll get into that in a moment, but it's actually generational trauma that we're healing too, because epigenetics, which is basically cells that are mutated through trauma or fear. Adrenaline and cortisol will mutate your cells, and we can trace it back 3 generations. So basically, when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother had all of the eggs that she would ever have in her body at the time. So we have 3 generations of cells that have been mutated by by the trauma. So we're looking at family history. I'm looking at in utero, and of course, your early developmental from conception to 3 years of age, your nervous system that is feeding your brain, that is going to develop your ability to regulate your emotions, 80% of that is being set up during those first 1,000 days. So
that's a trip.
Is that including in the womb?
Yes. So from the moment of
inception, 1,000 days out, the ticker starts.
Yeah. So from conception to basically 3 years of age.
Did I say inception?
Yeah.
I did, yeah. Conception, yeah.
So, yes. And so I would say because Western society, we've done some really wonky things in child rearing here in the 70s and 80s.
You think?
So, like,
When you say wonky, you mean
like, oh, it's
child abuse?
Well, that's overt, but our culture is ideally, I know people
We're
aren't
talking about drugs in the 70s.
going to want to hear this. I'm talking about like latchkey kids. Like that will
Yeah.
create dysregulation in the nervous system. A little 8-year-old is not.
Do you know what a latchkey kid is?
That's like get out of the house all day, or is it the opposite?
So it's actually when you come home, find your way home from school, and when you come home from school, let yourself in the house, and you're going to be alone until mom and dad get home.
Got it, yeah.
So,
Having to fend for yourself at a young age.
Yes.
Got it.
And we had a term for that, and we thought that was just fine in the 70s. It's latchkey kids. And also, I could go on and on, but just like doing a lot of and I did these things like the sleep training of children. It's optimal for our nervous systems and our brains, which again, I'll get into it even further, but it's optimal if during the first year of life, if we are not further away from our mothers than in eyesight, and if the mother can, get to the baby physically, or like can see the baby. So
For 1 year?
for the first year, so that the baby's nervous system feels safe enough, like lots of safety there.
So this is like collaborated, confirmed science.
So neuroscience, Dr. Alan Shore is the one, and I am a fan of Dr. Andrew Huberman, and so that podcast. But Alan Shore he's out of UCLA, and he's the one that confirmed all of this neuroscience. So it's all attachment and neuroscience that's been confirmed. We've come more in the last 20 years than we have in the last 100 when it comes to neuroscience.
Yeah, I believe it.
So,
So at what, just out of curiosity, I don't want to go down too far a rabbit hole, but just out of curiosity, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. At what point, you said the first year, it is important for the attachment with the mother for safety. Is that something that is like gradually should be tapered, or is there some sort of is it good to not continue that process as far as like maybe it looking like maybe coddling or presenting adversity or allowing the kid to grow on their...
So it's such a good question. And I understand that this is not, this specialty about what this is about, what your podcast is about, but it's a really good question. And the reality is that we are the most vulnerable mammals on the earth. We can't even walk until 1 year of age. And you have an impala that comes out and is like running right away, right? Mm-hmm. So no, those first 3 years, is the foundation that is getting set up for someone to have, again, this regulated nervous system. When you have a regulated nervous system, then you're not going to go into fight, flight, freeze. And those are the areas that we'll go into when we have a dysregulated nervous system trying to calm our nervous system. It's, and I can back it up and sort of, take it into the addiction aspect of it. But optimally, that's what you're wanting to do for those first 3 years. There's no, a child, a 2-year-old, if that 2-year-old is digging in the plant inside the house, we tend to, maybe tap the baby's hand and go, no, and sort of shame the baby. All that little child is doing is is just being a child. Mm-hmm. And so what you need to do is they don't understand. So you just remove and take them outside and say, here, we can dig in the dirt outside. That's what you do to like parent.
So now let's say, is that something that's specific to mother and child?
Such a good question.
Or is it either parent?
So it's either a parent, and the only reason I say mom, and we use the language of...
and it can be both? It
can be both, and it's just because we have only done studies with mom, and I'm sure that dad, there is a special bond that happens with mother's right brain and infant's right brain, where if mom we call it mind sight, and basically what mom's right brain is supposed to be doing to infant's right brain is creating this sense of home and safety by her regulating her mood. So if you can imagine infant in her arms, and this is the same thing that Moose was doing with you. So imagining that you're the infant in mother's arms and mom's making eye contact, physical contact, soothing and reassuring words. It's the sound, the prose of the mom's voice is helping to help the nervous system be smooth and regulated. The heartbeat, the breathing together, the smelling. So that can happen for mom and dad. That's why we have dads putting baby infant on chest. But these are all things that will help regulate the nervous system so that we won't have to reach for things outside of us to help regulate us.
It's pretty wild to think. It's pretty wild to think out and beyond that to generational trauma embedded genetically. Like
Yes.
that's fucking nuts.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
That is
and I had a
wild.
hard time getting that concept when she was trying to explain that to me. And she asked me, well, what's your family history? I mean, how far, what's the genealogy? And I go, well, on my mom's side, we go back to Scotland, right? And she goes, well, weren't the Scots persecuted, by the British? And that's many generations back. But I mean, that type of generational trauma is
That's
in
where
the
all
cells.
that's where all my ancestry is too, is Scotland.
Yeah.
Scotland and Ireland. It's just interesting to think about. My dad's adopted, and so he doesn't know who his actual parents are. And so there's a whole gap of who knows what the fuck over there,
Well, and also, and again, this is scientifically proven. How I've been trained is when an infant is adopted, even if it's to the very, very best family, their first wound, their first attachment wound is, I am not lovable, regardless of what situation they grow up
Even
in.
if the new parents
Are incredible,
the
the
best
most
people in the world.
incredible, attached. That's going to be a deep wound. And again, it's all subconscious and cellular. So people have no idea that's what's driving their current behavior.
Wow.
It's important.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you'll learn lots of new things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
yeah.
you break down genealogy a little bit. You get like a family tree kind of thing.
Yes, and yes, exactly.
Okay.
And we're also looking at, so it's not nature versus nurture, it's nature and nurture, right? So it's culturally what's going on within the family, environmentally, what did we learn from our family of origin environmentally and genetically? And it doesn't mean that just because we have trauma, and everyone coming into the world has their own little template, biological template of who they are based on their family history.
Yeah.
But it's the environment that will sort of light that match, and then you're off to
Trigger.
the races. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for relationships between a male and female. What were the roles in the families between parents and grandparents, and then also looking for things that are maybe unspoken or spoken rules, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
I was just thinking that because we come across a lot in the rooms. Is like in our generation, the parents were like, oh, boo hoo, so you had a bad childhood, so
Suck it up.
Yeah, man up, or like, why don't you just get over it? Yeah, why don't you just get over it?
Yes.
I feel that way a lot of the times towards other people. I see somebody struggling with something where I'm like, you shouldn't be struggling with that. I don't say it because I know
Right.
it's not the right way to, but my first thought is usually wrong in that area. Like someone's like, I'm like, why the fuck is that hard?
Yeah,
Like, stop.
Well, here you go. So then that's your clue that they have unresolved trauma. If they continue to do a behavior that they know intellectually is not serving them, but they are helpless to stop it, that means that there's a younger wounded part that they literally have no conscious awareness
Unaware.
of.
Yeah.
And that's your clue.
yeah.
That's your clue. If I could say what I would wish is that when people notice others' behavior, and instead of judging the behavior, getting curious about what's underneath the behavior.
Yeah.
That is where, way we can be softer. And I know it's frustrating, but that's the only way.
That's a very common question. I know in our circle, where is it coming from? What's the root?
Yeah, because I was just thinking that too, Josh. We will come across like somebody in the rooms that is very angry.
Yeah, let's
And
dig,
then so
let's
there's
dig
a
a little
like
bit.
there's a portion of people who go, oh, that guy's an asshole because he's always angry, right?
Right.
And then there's somebody that's like practicing some principles, and compassion's one of them, and said, and empathy is like, yeah, he's angry, but can you imagine what kind of hurt is that person feeling to react that way,
And that is
or pain?
one of the reasons I love working with, like, if you ask me my favorite clients, they're folks who've been in recovery, who have good recovery for a while, and they're looking to target, like you were, a particular thing, because that's what, recovery does, is it allows us all that insight and awareness. That's like the phase one.
Yeah.
It's not, if it's unresolved trauma, it's not going to resolve. Awareness and insight does not resolve it.
Yeah, all of the why creates the awareness, but then you got to really dig.
Yeah. Our literature even says, the 12 steps do a lot of things for a lot of addicts and can, help you stay clean, but it's not going to fix everything that might trouble you.
Yeah. So, it's beautiful. And then if they are stuck, then, again, that's where they'd want to go, is into some of that deeper non-ordinary state work, which is where you did a little bit of what we call non-ordinary state work with the moose.
Yeah. As I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I could go for some more therapy, to be honest. Yeah. I never finished it. Like the drive, and then at the time money got tight, and I just was like, I can't stay committed to it right now.
It is far for you, but
Yeah.
I mean, considering like our sessions were like a month out from each other, because you're very busy.
Yes.
And so like a once a month trip to finish up. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. I could use it.
My wife tells me
there's a whole lot of, I don't know what is going on with me right now.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot. I was just talking to somebody on the way over here. I know all of the contributing factors, but the way I'm reacting to the factors, it's like blindly, like I want to isolate, I want to run away, and I can't see clear enough back to the root. I know why. I'm overwhelmed in a bunch of different ways, and in fear, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. But my reaction is to get some boots and build a fire in a log house in the middle of nowhere and kill things and eat it.
Isolate.
Yeah, by myself, and my brain will literally start convincing myself this is okay, and it's probably better if you do this. I'm just sitting there watching the show go on in my head, like, fuck.
In the rooms we say that's his addict talking to him, trying to sabotage him.
It's loud right now too, and it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget too, because I'll get focused on how I'm responding and what my brain is telling me the solution is, even if it's a bad one. And I forget to look at like all of the rest of life. Like I'm not looking at like, oh, this stressor, this stressor, this stressor, this stressor. This is how you're supposed to be feeling right now. There's a lot going on. Everything's okay. I can't see that.
Yes.
Because my brain's like, that's the solution, that right there. And it just like.
Well, yes.
That rings a bell for you?
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, because again, if I take us through the neurobiology of trauma, would that be helpful?
Sure.
Based on what you were just saying.
Yeah, we can do whatever. Yeah.
So the first thing I would share is that trauma embeds in the mind and body differently than a normal memory. So, a normal memory is here in the front part of my brain. We'll call that the thinking brain. And a typical memory, I had a turkey sandwich yesterday for lunch, and I recall where I was, the time, the location. It's not fragmented at all, and I don't have a lot of feelings about it. But a trauma memory our mind and body will perceive a life-threatening event, and that could be that we are overwhelmed, or that our mom is telling us we're never going to amount to anything.
Physically attacked,
emotionally attacked, verbally attacked, but maybe we're in a car accident or getting chased by a bear in the woods. All of those things our mind and body are perceiving as a life-threatening event. It hits the amygdala, which is the alarm bell in the brain. Your thinking brain shuts down because you don't
I often remember how I felt but not details.
Yeah. So your thinking brain it shuts down because you don't need to know if it's a polar bear, a black bear, or a brown bear. You just need to flood with adrenaline and cortisol and go into fight, flight, or freeze. So you're having a traumatic trigger and your brain is going offline just as it's designed to do, because there's some sort of this survival terror. Your brain, anytime a person, a place, a conversation, a sight, a sound, a smell, a stance, a tone, a look reminds you of the original wound, which you will have, I promise you will have no conscious awareness of it, because if you did, you would have already resolved it. So it's going to be somewhere in your subconscious and cellular memory that you don't have access to. And it's telling you that there's a saber-tooth tiger behind the rock. It's a very ancient and primal survival system. So now, like I said, anytime you get triggered, you're going to go into fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is that isolation place. It's like, hunker down, I'm going into a cave, and this is the safest place. This is my nervous system. So the work that we do, it literally overwhelms the nervous system with warm and fuzzies, which is what the moose in the sacred place, the attachment, warm and fuzzies, so that the brain, it wants to heal. It will organically move the survival experience from the survival brain to the thinking brain, and you will no longer be triggered by being overwhelmed. Right now, your nervous system is too full of adrenaline and cortisol, and so when you get overwhelmed or stressed, it literally, it is so brilliant that it's going directly into a defense mechanism of isolate, freeze, because it truly believes you're in a life-threatening situation.
Yeah. I remember when you were explaining all that to me, like when I was having a hard time getting that concept, you made it really simple for me, and I appreciate that too. You said you have a filing cabinet in the back of your head, and the parts of your childhood where you were physically abused, when you were hit, all those are in this filing cabinet back here. And so your work was to get that stuff out of the filing cabinet. Basically, your work was to empty the filing cabinet of trauma.
Right. You're releasing the stored adrenaline and cortisol. One of the ways Dr. Paul Conti, I love him, he's a psychiatrist, he talks about it in the ways that you might be talking like going to the doctor's office. He says, if someone comes into me and they're coming in with all these symptoms, and they have high blood pressure, and they have irritable bowel syndrome, and they have diabetes, then I'm going to do my scans, and I'm going to come up with, there's an abscess here. We're going to need to do surgery. And once we are able to do that surgery and go through recovery, then those symptoms are going to reduce and eliminate. It's exactly the same thing with trauma. It's embedded in our nervous system, and it's an injury, and it's an abscess, and it's spitting off these different symptoms. So that might be depression, anxiety, isolation, like I said, dysfunctional relational issues. And once we go in and we do surgery, then you are able to release what's stored, and then the system can organize around well instead of dis-ease.
We often refer to that word, dis-ease. I have found, and I know Josh can relate to this, that like we've done, 40 or so episodes, that a large portion of the people, when we ask them about their childhood, they were like, I had a normal childhood. This happened and this happened, but that was cool. It was normal. And this happened, and I would stop and say, well,
fuck is normal?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, there is no normal for us.
No,
not for us.
No.
And they didn't realize what they went through was trauma.
No,
they think trauma is like being punched in the face, right? Which it is.
Right.
But a lot of different types of trauma
yes.
happen.
Well, I think that the most insidious and covert, and the one that is the most severe and significant for every human being, is this attachment disruption that is happening for everyone. So I was listening to your podcast earlier, and the woman, the last podcast, her name was Lindsay, and she was talking about as a child how she the way that she learned how to attach, she learned her sense of belonging was through people pleasing and through approval seeking. And if I'm cute then people will like me. So
That attachment with her mom.
yeah, that attachment pattern with her mom.
Yeah.
And so, so then she becomes an adult, and her attachment style, her relationship style is what you all call codependent. And what we would call is, there's an insecure attachment style there, and it's anxious attachment. So the anxious attachment, their underlying belief is, I'm not okay, but you're okay. I'm not okay, but you're okay. So as long as you're okay, then I'm okay. And that is literally what is imprinted in those first 1,000 days. And so now she will, until she does the deeper work, she will continue to put herself in situations, because that's what's familiar. She'll do, if what we don't resolve, we will recreate. So she will continue to put herself in situations where she's with someone who is going to control or exploit her, because that's what she's familiar with in her attachment pattern, in her soma.
That doesn't necessarily have to be like the partner that she has. It could be somebody in her life.
It can
like
be,
it still be her mom.
Yes, it could. Well, it's definitely her mom, unless her mom did her own healing work. But what she'll see, if she's done some work, it sounds like she did, and I didn't get to listen to her whole story. But that's the way it happens. That is the most significant and severe. These attachment wounds that happen in childhood. More so than physical or verbal or even sexual abuse. It's insidious. Those attachment wounds are really what set you up for having a dysregulated nervous system. All of them are important. I can't really, but I just think no one is aware of those attachment wounds that are driving really defensive behavior.
We see that a lot when talking with people, is that they will mention like something in their childhood or even in their time being clean or sober, is that they don't know what they went through was trauma. Mm-hmm. So
thinking about it, you said earlier we're the most vulnerable mammals. We can't walk for the first year. We're so vulnerable mentally and emotionally too. It's pretty wild how experiences and I guess just experiences, to keep it simple, can become cemented into us as individuals that will literally mold us forever. They will mold us until we die. And then that you were saying, the first 1,000 days and even beyond that, it continues to happen, but it's pretty crazy. Like, it can warp our perception of reality. It can warp our ability to communicate, build relationships, grow, make decisions. Just our existence becomes completely hampered by stuff from our childhood. It's fucking wild.
And the good news is that we can rewire this nervous system with. That is the good news. That's the good news, is that you can have what we call earned secure attachment. So then you can do the surgery, the internal surgery, and then you can show up differently with a more regulated nervous system. And I want to, again, let me drop into what a regulated and dysregulated nervous system means. So Kevin was talking about that filing cabinet in the survival brain. And so there is a trauma loop that is constantly processing in the background in that filing cabinet, whether you're aware of it or not. So that's a dysregulated nervous system.
I fucking hate filing cabinets.
And so now, again, our mind and body perceive a life-threatening event. I had a deputy who would smell diesel fuel, and he would be right back at the earthquake trying to help people falling to their death on the Bay Bridge, right? So diesel fuel would do that for him. And there's so many things that people are so unaware of. I mean, right before one of your brothers hit you, a crow could have cacawed, and every time you hear that, right? And so
the dog barking.
Yes.
Still today.
So So there are thousands of these things that could get imprinted. So here we are. We're going into that trauma loop, and you have a person, a place, a conversation, a sight, a sound, a smell, a look, a tone. Your mind and body perceive a life-threatening event and hits that amygdala. It hits the brain, and this is happening within nanoseconds. It hits the brain, and the affect for the client is one of shame, grief, visceral pain, or rage. And immediately it goes to the body, the autonomic nervous system, which is cardiovascular, respiratory, and your endocrine system, which is your ability to rest and digest your hormones. And when you go into fight, so the autonomic nervous system, when you go into the sympathetic nervous system, that's mobilizing. You increase your heart rate, you increase your respiratory, you increase the bowel movement, increase the blood pressure, and then it goes back up to the chemical part of the brain. And the chemicals that get released are cortisol releasing factor, dynorphin. The experience is one of feeling alone, disconnected, no one by my side, hopeless and unworthy. And then it goes back up to the brain, to the subconscious beliefs. And there's 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of these will get embedded in your subconscious. And these are what's driving the current behavior. I am not good enough, or I am a failure. I am not lovable, or mom or dad doesn't love me. I do not exist, or I don't matter. And I am not safe, or I am going to die. That is where that cellular memory gets driven. And by the way, that's intolerable. That survival terror is intolerable. So immediately your body goes directly into those defense mechanisms, fight, flight, freeze. This is what is so fascinating. And I'm hoping that people can see themselves here, and that it will reduce the shame they have around their behaviors. So your nervous system is like, I can't tolerate this. So we're going to in the short term, we're going to go into fight, which is going to release norepinephrine, which is the aggression chemical. And what that does is, in the short term, it gives us relief from this dysregulated nervous system, and it helps us to exhale. So what that looks like is impulse control issues, rage, and also what we call counterphobic, which means I am going to do things that are so high risk and so crazy because I can't feel anything unless I'm jumping off of cliffs and riding motorcycles at 100 miles an hour. So that's a defense mechanism. That's just trying to regulate your nervous system.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I can relate to that so much.
Wow.
I got a couple friends that are the same.
Adrenaline junkies, we call them?
Just chaos.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like me, and I'm just starting to come out of this, but like, I'm going to start fucking 10 businesses, and I'm going to be in 100 different places at the same time. And I'm going to be problem solving all the time, so that I don't have to worry about anything else. We got a buddy that,
is this new for you? There's realization?
No. What do you mean new? Like, I'm just realizing that I do that?
Or what it's actually called, or...
Oh, what she was just explaining it as something that I've been aware of about myself. Yeah, I'm just bringing it up because I can relate to what you're saying. And maybe in the last year, I just started slowing down. I'm like, this is
true.
This is insanity.
But you can't, and you can't keep it up. And that is the sympathetic nervous system mobilizing for fight. Again, in the short term.
Me.
Yeah. Well, and then what happens is, our nervous system is only designed to stay in that sympathetic nervous system, the threat state, for 15 minutes to lift the car off of the loved one, or to get away from the bear, right? And so, of course, in our Western society, everyone is in that fight or flight state. They're in that threat state. And then what happens is, once you stay there too long, it then shifts into the parasympathetic nervous system, and it goes into immobilization, and your heart rate goes down, and your respiratory goes down, your bowel movements. And basically it's that place where it's just like, I can't.
A crash?
I can't do it. And that's your isolation. And actually, it's very neurophysiologically correct what your nervous system is doing, because it's, again, this ancient survival system. It's the possum place. Basically, what happens when you go into that freeze state, it releases dopamine, which is an opiate-like effect for our nervous system, because we are going to be devoured by the lion. So if we're going to be devoured and ripped apart, then we're going to release some dopamine so that we won't feel it as intensely as we would if we didn't have that. So that's why it's actually adaptive that you go into the isolation. I know behaviorally people get concerned about it, but for me, I'm like, yeah, that's just because he has such a dysregulated nervous system. It's doing what it's designed to do to help you to survive. And I promise you, all of these coping mechanisms that you have, fight, flight, freeze, were designed to help you survive when it was actually not in your control, which was your childhood. Every child is dependent, and they don't have control over their circumstances. So this is what we do, and that's how our body adapts. The problem is that we don't know that we're no longer in that situation. Our nervous system no longer knows that we're in that situation, and it will continue to go into fight, flight, freeze.
That's really heavy. Said, no, I mean, I'm like looking at my life, right?
Yeah,
and
it's
everything
accurate.
that she's talking about, I go, oh, I remember that part.
Yeah.
And I relate to that. That's and then I know later
It's
on.
tough to break.
Well,
Yeah,
It's tough to break. First,
can't-
it's hard to find it, acknowledge it, recognize
Well,
it.
and also this education is not out there. I mean, I would say about 5% of the clinicians out there even understand this neurobiology. I came into field purely as a trauma therapist. So
Speaking of coming into the field, how did you get into this? Maybe give us a little bit of your background.
good.
Like let's maybe start like you graduated high school.
And you know what? If you don't want to talk about any of that,
No, I'm just thinking like, to help you understand,
Or start wherever
what
you think you
drove,
should.
right? So, well, I'll start coming into the field, and then I'll take you back into my childhood because I had no awareness at all about any of this.
isn't that one of the reasons you got into the field?
Yeah,
is because of your childhood?
Well, I didn't know. So I was a former professional tennis player, and I was the person that like suck it up, buttercup, and I was absolutely didn't feel my feelings or any of that.
Yeah.
But at 39, what happened? I was a single mom. My boys were 5 and 8. They're now 22 and 25. But I was selling software for ADP, and my fiance passed away while I was giving him CPR, and I literally could not function. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't concentrate. I was sort of walking into walls. Every time I heard a fire truck, I thought someone I loved was going to die. Every time I heard someone take a deep inhale of breath, I thought they were going to die. And so I was blessed enough to literally get this type of trauma work. I went into my therapist who had just been trained in this. And so she asked me for the worst image, body sensation, and belief. And it was me straddling him, giving him CPR, watching him take his last breath, from my stomach to my throat, feeling like I was going to throw up. And the belief is I'm devastated and helpless. And the image that now feels more true is he's floating to heaven. Those of us who love him are letting him go. I have the strong, grounded tree trunk sensation in my body. And the belief is I am at peace. And I never experienced another moment of PTSD from that day forward. Wow. And I said, this is it. This is what I'm doing with my life. It took me 11 years to get through a 5-year program. And that's when I went back to graduate school and then was trained. The first month I went into my internship, again, blessed enough to get trained for 4 months with a shaman and just really went in deep. So I've never been a traditional talk therapist, purely came in as a trauma therapist.
That's a pretty cool path that you've taken. Knowing that, I mean, I can relate to that because I had a friend that said when I left the family business, he said, grab your, he was a photographer for his like whole life. And he goes, why don't you just grab your camera and come hang out with me for a week? And then at the end of that week, I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's like, it's a blessing. Like, and that's also, I tell people like the yellow brick road to healing. I'll say, here, you're coming in here as a victim, and everyone hates that word. And I said, it's just someone who's experienced an unpleasant event and you're feeling hopeless and helpless. In order to reach that next level of healing is survivor. And you have to go through the stages of grief and loss, denial, DABDA is what we say, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then eventually acceptance. And those certainly don't go in order. And denial is anything from walking into walls to walking underwater, feeling like this is a nightmare. Anger is anything from irritable to rage. bargaining, if only I'd done this and only done that. And depression is moodiness, anything from moodiness to hopelessness. And you have to feel those feelings, feel them fully. And if you don't, you could get stuck in one of those stages, as you were stuck in anger, your anger stage for decades.
Yeah.
Some folks are just stuck in depression. And then once we get through that, then to reach our highest level of healing, which I call Thriver, is finding a meaning in the suffering and sharing with others. That's where the post-traumatic growth is. And you must have forgiveness of self in order to reach that level. And you most times, not always, have to have forgiveness of other. And I tell people, so our organized religion and a lot of our culture just wants to do this flight to wellness, go from victim all the way up to like, what's the lesson? But it's always revealed. And it was revealed, like, the gift of my fiance passing away was that it brought me into the field.
Yeah.
There's always that gift there, or a meaning in the suffering.
You can always find what is it, a silver lining. There's if you have to either find a silver lining or carry the pain with you, and those are your options. Like, some people are like, well, you're painting it pretty. Well, I'd rather paint it pretty than carry that shit.
Miserable for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So part of the session that how you and I started was, you asked me a lot of questions about my specific trauma that I was trying to, and in my childhood, and we did this diagram on like a big piece of paper. It was an egg.
Yeah,
it was the egg.
Yeah.
And then we would put all my specific trauma events in my childhood on there, and those were all physical. Mm-hmm. And so we would go through each one and like talk about it under a meditative state, doing bilateral sound for the first time. Mm-hmm. And that's where I put headphones on, and the sound goes from one ear to the other. And so we would talk about a specific violent episode of me being beat as a kid, or whatever that was, until I no longer could recall that episode and have a physical reaction to it. And that's like the first time that we talked about, when I was a little kid and the stuff that happened to me. And then I could just talk about it as facts and not feelings. I was sold.
Yeah, you moved it from filing cabinet of survival to the filing cabinet of thinking brain.
So
I was
from
sold.
the inside of the egg to the outside of the egg?
Oh, that was just a piece.
A way to,
visualize
like put it down.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the point I was coming to was the correlation between that and addiction. Mm-hmm. You specifically said, after all the information I gave you of my life, mm-hmm. you said, it's pretty clear that addiction saved your life, because if you didn't find drugs, you would have killed yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That was your
And
coping
she didn't
mechanism.
even know that I had, like, at 14, I think it was, I attempted to take my life.
That was your log cabin.
Yeah.
That was your log cabin.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got to internalize the fact that addiction saved my life. Doesn't mean I need to stay there anymore, because I have new tools.
Yes.
Right.
And we have to thank our addictions. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Judy Crane is a trauma therapist. I actually saw her on the TV show Intervention, and
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I've heard that name before.
I fell in love with her because she's sitting there talking to a woman who had lost her children and her husband in a house fire, and she was the only survivor. And fast forward to her intervention, and she was addicted to meth. And Judy Crane looks at her and says, "Thank God for your addiction. It saved your life.
Yeah.
It's no longer serving you. It's time to go. It's time to go. Let it go. But we have to thank it. And we aren't bad people trying to be good. We're wounded people trying to heal. That's the whole
heavy.
drill. And so that's all Judy Crane. And then I went down to her. She has a healing retreat in Florida, and went and met her, and it was really cool. Like, she's a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we have a similar saying, in the rooms, in 12-step rooms, is we're not bad people trying to do good, or we're I forget what it was. I can't remember anything. But yeah, it's very similar.
We say something sometimes somewhere similar.
Well,
Yeah, people are going to be listening to this and
She's
go,
in
Kevin, it's
recovery.
this, right?
Yeah.
she's
All
in
these people are
recovery.
going to
Maybe
go,
it's
he
from
doesn't
recovery.
even know the saying in the room. So, but yeah, it's very similar to this. And we understand that our like addiction is not our fault.
That's right.
And that's what we tell, what it says in our literature. Our addiction is not our fault. Our recovery is our responsibility.
The realization early on for me, I remember my first round of steps, my first, fourth, and fifth step, getting some relief from that process and having the realization that, like, I'm not a bad person. I've just done some bad stuff, and that doesn't define me today. And having that kind of like recognition, like, I've made some mistakes, but that doesn't mean that I am I'm not inherently bad.
Right.
But like, subconsciously up until that point, like, I was not a good person.
Yeah.
Like, when I showed up at my first sponsor's house to do step work for the first time, his kids answered the door, and I'm like, I can't fucking be here.
Oh.
Cause like, I'm not a good person. Like, I can't be around
Kids?
kids. Yeah. Like, and even in addiction, I would, like, if there was kids somewhere I went, I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go. Like, I'm like,
You didn't want to be
I'm a liability. I'm a liability. Like, I will do, I'll do dumb stuff, violence, rob you. And if there's kids and I feel like I want to do that, then the kids are going to be there for that,
What happened when you were younger that people didn't protect you? Because you're trying to protect the children, and what you're saying,
Oh, fuck.
that's what, yeah. Because you just basically told me that you weren't protected as a child.
It's
so you're
it's
trying to
abandonment issues and betrayal and like getting set up or getting sent away as a kid. Like, my family sent me to reform schools young.
like how young?
14.
Yeah.
Yeah, 14, 15. And I think that's probably where most of it started, was like, it goes back a little bit further. Like, I have 3 younger siblings, and as they were born, I felt further and further away from the family. Like, I just didn't deal with that well, that transition of there being more kids. I wasn't able to understand that at the time, but like, I didn't deal with that well. So it led to acting out, and which led to more stuff. And then eventually, I got sent away, and where I got sent was very traumatic. I was gone for several years. And so that's probably
And abused.
Yeah, for sure. The whole time it was gnarly. And then just never feeling safe anywhere, And so when I came back from those programs when I was 18, I never really settled anywhere, So I don't know. That's the unsafe feeling from childhood for sure.
And I'm just piggybacking on that, and a lot of addicts that show up in the rooms that have been institutionalized still have a hard time letting go of the. You walk in the room, you find the exits, you get a chair against the wall, hypervigilance. Yeah, get a chair against the wall, and then you have to scope out each person in the room to see if they're a threat and know where the threats are, and all that happens like that, like in a split second. And
I'm always feeling the room, dude. My energy. I'm still, and it's subconscious most of the time now, because I don't trip on seats anymore or any of that stuff. But there's always part of me that is occupied by paying attention to how the room feels. Another thing that I didn't think about that I think might be good to share is, and I might have shared it on the podcast before, but there was some like my dad's adoptive mom's second husband had a history of like kids abuse with kids, physically and sexually. And when I was a kid, he had convinced me to get in the hot tub with him without clothes on. I was like 5 years old, 6 years old. And I told my parents about it and nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And they, not only that, but we went to visit like not that long after.
You weren't protected.
Yeah, that. And I didn't think about that till after that, but yeah,
That
that's
would do
another
it.
thing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and also when your first experiences are unhealthy or distorted, then it becomes difficult to understand boundaries with others. Your boundaries, because no one protected your boundaries. So then you could end up having boundary issues with others.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms right there.
Boundaries?
No, just the repetitive process going from what happened to you and
The cemented experience.
Yes.
Like it's nuts. It really is crazy.
where do you see the correlation between the trauma or PTSD and the getting into addiction?
So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you
And not
asked
just
that.
drugs or alcohol too, because
Right.
we know that it's like so much
Process
stuff.
addiction.
Yeah.
So, my definition of an addiction is continuing to do a behavior even though it has negative consequences.
That's ours too.
To any major area of your life, right? Your health, your career, legally, your relationships, financially,
Mentally.
health. And so that's my definition of an addiction. And of course, there's substances and then process addictions, right? So, you as we would think like food or sex or gambling or shopping, but it could be spirituality or exercise.
That's a
it's
process addiction.
process addiction.
Well, can you explain that
Or
one to us?
behavioral addictions, right? So
Oh, okay.
continuing to do a behavior even though it has negative consequences. So
Yeah.
if you overeat or undereat, those are addictions. Using video games to the exclusion of doing things in your life that you know that you need to do. The gambling that will impact, like if you continue to do that behavior and it's impacting you negatively financially. Spirituality, again, we sometimes call it spiritual bypass, where you are, and you can do this with anything. You can use the 12 steps, or you can use any sort of organized belief system where it's just more service and more Bible or more big book, right? And they're using that to hide behind and not take a look at what's what's deeper and underneath. Not that that's what you're doing in 12-step. I'm saying that
No,
when
people
it
can do
becomes-
that.
yes, when it's-
we see it.
yeah.
I mean-
so that's the addictive aspect of it. Like, so does that help with the behavioral
Yeah.
process addiction?
Yeah.
So how does trauma, so we talked about that dysregulated nervous system, right? That it's processing all the time in the background. And so you have fight that is going to release norepinephrine. You have flight that will release the chemical. This is all soothing and giving you short-term relief. So flight is going to release 5-HTP, which is the precursor to serotonin. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's a pleasure chemical. And that actually, believe it or not, is where all the anxiety disorders live. So everyone that's obsessing and ruminating and worrying, it actually gives your brain a place to anchor into rather than this survival terror. It's actually
I do
Oh,
that.
wow.
I'm doing
mechanism.
that often lately.
So that's a flight.
Often.
You're still in a threat state, fight, flight, and then freeze is what I talked about, the dopamine. That's when we disassociate. We freeze and disconnect, and that's where all our addictions live. So that is the coping mechanism where you talk about, I need an escape, or I just need to not be able to deal with these things. That's actually the defense mechanism of freeze, and it's releasing dopamine when you're doing any addiction, and addictions are self-destructive. And of course, it's enhanced when we're using substances. But again, food in the form of sugar and fat, it's going to release a lot of dopamine, and it's going to make you feel sort of milk drunk, right? Or food coma, right? So, and then the folks who are use too little food, that's actually an anxiety disorder. And again, it's releasing some feel-good chemicals in the short term to help you cope with the dysregulated nervous system. So that's where the addictions come in. It literally is going to release dopamine 1, right? And then when I talked about dopamine 2 is where you go into that extraordinarily pleasure place of attachment, right? When you were attaching with the moose. And folks who have never had true attachment, when they experience that for the first time, that is like mind blowing. That is actually what you didn't. So your nervous system had never gotten that from another human being, especially early on in your lifetime. And that's most of my clients. And we call that complex PTSD now. When you have early developmental trauma, and then you then have adult trauma, because that dysregulation creates all of the patterns that you're going to keep reenacting the unresolved attachment wounds, and also stepping into the behaviors that are familiar. It's more familiar. Even if something sucks, your nervous system likes homeostasis, and it's going to keep stepping into this. It sucks, and that's what's familiar, and it feels good. The devil, you know.
To that. That was like a pattern of relationships I would get into when I was in active addiction, and some early recovery. It was like chaos and dysfunction. I was so comfortable because it's all I knew.
Yeah.
Right. The relationships I had as a kid were, my parents and my brothers, and was chaos and
violence, and it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe emotionally or physically.
So I ended up with relationships, romantic relationships like that. And it wasn't until I did a little bit of work that I found somebody that was the exact opposite. Like if you ever got to know my wife, Jen, she's like the most kind, peaceful, loving, gentle, non-confrontational, everything that I never had.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you have mentioned that, and I think that's what brought you in also with me, and maybe I always say just doing pieces of work, because you're like, she just made a suggestion and I literally got all bent out of shape, and she was just doing it in the kindest. She had no intent other than to just be helpful. And I'm getting all bent out of shape. So I got to do something about this, Jen. We got to work on this.
I remember that, like we addressed the physical trauma of my childhood, and then how the reactions I would have, because I grew up with acute hyper-awareness, or what did you call it? Hypervigilance, yeah. Where I couldn't really get any deep sleep. I was always at the surface. If somebody touched me while I was sleeping, I would leap out of bed swinging. That's what I was used to. I did that like my entire... That's exactly what I did.
Sadie's got to wake me up. She's like, hey... And then she stands up, gets out of the way. So I'm like, what?
That used to be me.
Yeah.
And then after I like closed that part of that PTSD with Jennifer, now my wife has to like shake me to wake me up. And
that sounds nice.
And she said the first time she had to do that, she was so scared. And I just like woke up and go, oh, hi, honey.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And if you don't mind, I'll share that with other clients, because it's about these nuanced things that you have no idea that this isn't what is normal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. That was a key pivotal point that between my wife and I, is where she got to see the results of the hard work. And I talk about with sponsees, like we're going to have to do the hard work. We're not just going to write down some step work and stuff. We have to actually go in inside and do the hard work.
Well, you guys are doing it here on this podcast. I mean, you guys are sharing that hard work. I mean, again, when I listen to your, you interviewing your guests, it's like, okay, so nice to meet you. And what about your childhood? I'm like, oh, get it.
Big, yeah.
Actually, we don't waste any time. What's interesting about that is...
I think it's good to get the uncomfortable stuff out of the way right away, too, because it makes the rest of the podcast just kind of roll out.
That's one of the things that I've noticed about myself is for the large amount of time that I've been in the program, I am so used to talking about feelings and not being surface level. Like none of our friends, we're not
Nothing
surface. There's
anywhere,
nothing
yeah.
surface. We're like,
Matter of fact, when they are surfacey, I have a really hard time connecting and wanting to spend time
or
because
getting trust.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't really know what's going on with you, man.
Yeah.
Right.
I have no idea. I can't relate to you because I don't think you can relate to yourself. Everything's up here. I don't know. What are
Yeah.
we doing here?
I think I have to give you guys so much credit, especially for men, because it's hard for anyone to talk about feelings and actually to even know what you're feeling. Like, what is a feeling and what am I feeling? But you guys are really like forcing folks to do it, to do that hard work, and it's in men specifically.
Yeah, no,
kudos to you guys.
Well, I attribute like all that stigma to like society's expectations of norm, and I call bullshit on all that.
Yes.
I don't believe in
You don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
So
I don't
there's
believe
that, too.
in listening to society's norm anymore. I question everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with working the steps and practicing the principles like open-minded and willingness to change and having new perspectives.
Well, I mean, I know for me, I didn't know what a feeling was.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like I didn't know what, like, I remember early on, it was like, no, that's a thought. That's not a feeling. I would say, I feel this. And you'd be like, no, you don't feel that.
How did they explain it to
That's
you? Like,
not-
how did you get there?
Well, he did a lot with me, and then just being around people in recovery. But I would be explaining something to him, and I'd be like, I think this, or I feel like, and then I would say something that's not a feeling, and he'd be
Right.
like, that's not a feeling.
You have to
What
get
are
a list.
what are you feeling? And then we'd figure out what the feelings were, and then just kind of like digging into that and understanding the difference between a thought and a feeling. All of a sudden, now I can identify them, and now I understand where they're coming from, or
Yeah, we talk in the rooms. We talk about the 2-foot drop from your head to your heart, right? And so that's where I can relate a lot to the therapy that we did. Is my brain did a lot of the dictating of how I reacted to something.
my brain did everything.
Right. And
Yes.
so after we did the specific trauma therapy around the physical abuse, I was able to respond now instead of react. My reaction was aggression and protect myself. And responding was more like compassion. Which,
Yeah. Well, I think once you can identify feelings, well, I think once I learned how to identify feelings, I'm able to recognize what other people may be feeling. So it makes it easier to respond. So like if I don't know what I'm feeling, how the fuck do I know what somebody else is feeling? Because they might be saying, what they're saying might be
Not matching.
yeah, but I know that that's not what that's not the feeling. So if I can recognize the feeling, it's easier to be like helpful, like be easier to show up for somebody.
it's easier, well, at least for me, and I know for you too, it's easier to get to a point of compassion. Because I've heard you talk about it before,
Yeah.
Josh, is that,
It's way easier.
like you recognize
I do,
somebody's pain and you have compassion for them.
especially when you're close with somebody.
True.
Yeah.
Like often with Sadie, there'll be something going on, and she's struggling with something, and I'm able to just be there and understand, like, okay, she's feeling this way right now, and just show up for her in a supportive way to help her get through the feeling, regardless of what she's doing here. Like she's feeling something and she doesn't know what the hell's going on,
Yeah, and you don't tell her to pull her bootstraps up or
No.
get over it.
You're
No.
being her moose.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm the moose. Yeah,
That's so cute. Josh the Moose.
Yeah.
You're very therapeutic.
yeah.
That's
That
cool.
is therapeutic, because that's actually what attachment is to feel understood. He understands me, he feels me, he gets me. That's the experience of secure attachment. And then all those beautiful chemicals start getting released in the body. And that gives us our regulation. It also gives us sort of this preventative medicine for when stress comes about. We already have some warm and fuzzies inside of us that help us to be able to tolerate life stressors. But when there's too much stress in the system, the adrenaline and cortisol that's stored up, because there's only so much that we can contain, then little things will make us want to run and hide or rage or do what have you, do those types of things. So that's also your clue where you're like, okay, I need to do some deeper work so that I can tolerate. So I have more room in my system to be able to tolerate.
More bandwidth. I was just talking with somebody about that on the way here too. People like us, it's the same concept, but more consciously with how much we take on physically and mentally. Like most normal people leave themselves a little bit of space for something to happen. I don't do that. I'll max myself out there. If something goes wrong, I'm fucked.
Yeah, so
I'm completely fucked.
Yes, that is also the addiction of busyness, right? That's the addiction of busyness, because then it helps you to, again, regulate. Because if you're so busy, then you don't have time to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm doing so little that I'm going completely insane. I'm going nuts.
So you get to learn where your
Balance?
Yeah.
learn where your
Wait,
pace is.
are you saying that Josh needs to find balance?
We all need balance, Kevin.
How many times have I said that to you?
Well, I mean, if you guys hadn't said it to me over and over again, I'd still be
True.
running around with
Rocking
my
and
head
rolling.
cut off.
Rocking and rolling.
I'm just saying I'm not the
took-
only one.
I think we went. We did one of these podcasts with.
Two of our other friends.
Yeah, and we all three of them. I'm close with all three of them, and all three of them at one point in the podcast were like, "Nope, you're doing too much."
Yeah.
Like, and I'm
they
like,
were having a little intervention.
yeah,
on your
I
busyness.
did. Yeah, because
talked about that
I heard
too.
it from all of them individually at different times. But I'm like, nah, whatever, dude. I got this. And then all three of them at the same time, and I was like, internally, I was defensive, maybe even externally a little bit.
Externally, you were defensive.
Yeah, I felt attacked, and I may have even said that, but later, after those feelings went away, I was like recognizing the reality of the situation. I'm like, I am doing too much.
That is
Shit.
That is so beautiful. That is the gift of the rooms, the
Support
community.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal. Yeah.
The antidote to addiction is attachment,
Not
and
only
that's your
that-
first.
Yeah,
The
not only
community.
that, but it's Josh personally, because he has done that exact situation, and a lot of things that I would talk to him about is like, I don't know, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like defensively.
Yeah.
And then
Not
and
open
then-
and willing.
no,
Curious.
But about 2 weeks later, he goes, I tried that thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I really like it. Now I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not up to me whether he does it or not.
Right.
I'm here to make the suggestion.
Yeah. There's the support group thing is amazing. And I think something that's maybe missed by some people is a support group is great, but the amount of energy and effort and time that you put in to the relationships with the people in your support group are what really make the difference. Because if you are open about how you're actually feeling, communicate with these people regularly, they can call you. They can call me on my shit. I could, if they don't know,
You don't know.
yeah. Not only that, but if I barely spend any time with them and they tell me something, I'm like, these motherfuckers don't know me.
Right?
No, why am I going to listen to them?
Yeah.
They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
What other parts of a session would you have besides the assessment? We kind of went off track on that
Yeah.
one, but
What's the next step?
Well, then you're literally setting the container, right? So it starts from the moment that someone contacts me. I want them to feel safe with me, so I'm very conscious of how I'm interacting with you when before I make your appointment or whatever, and just letting you know that like this is safe and this is this is the type of work I do. But my office, I will make sure that the client is sitting with their back to a wall without an open space or window or a door. Because again, subconsciously, I want their nervous system to settle. I'm having the lights low. I have particular essential oils that, again, are nourishing and soothing to this. Everyone that's walking in my room has a dysregulated nervous system. So I'm doing all the things in the environment that will help the nervous system to settle. And then we're working on, again, setting the therapeutic container around attunement, that they trust that I know what I'm up to and that I have their highest good at heart. Their own attunement when they notice they're becoming unsettled or ungrounded, that we can settle and ground themselves, where maybe they're going to use some breath work, and I'll teach them some breathing techniques. And then we'll use the bilateral stimulation. And the bilateral stimulation is designed to, with the tones going to the left and the right side of the brain, it actually drops you into a therapeutic parasympathetic nervous system. You literally don't have to do anything, and your nervous system is starting to like exhale. Because when we're in a dysregulated state, we're contracted. And when we're in that more safe enough state, your nervous system will start exhaling. So by putting the bilateral stimulation on, that will help to the nervous system to feel safe enough. Because in a normal state of consciousness, your mind and body will not release it. It's gonna protect your wounds. And so we're doing everything that we scientifically know to start allowing your nervous system to feel safe enough to start releasing. So then we'll use probably the earth. We're going to give you some earth to be able to touch.
The rocks.
Yes, the rocks.
Yeah, she has a basket of rocks.
My house is full of crystals and rocks.
Yeah. Well, we get to pick one and hold it. I have to say, I really like your new office. I really do. Because I walked in that for the first time and I'm looking around and I get the same feeling at that office as I get when I walk into this studio. Like this studio is like a decompression chamber for me.
Nice.
Right?
That's
I
a good
spend
thing.
a lot of time in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is a safe space.
Yeah. Well, I feel that whenever I walk in to the rooms as well, I could walk in honestly to any room when I was going to recovery meetings, and my whole body would just exhale. I just knew I could let it all go in here. And I didn't talk much or anything. I loved the rooms though. I loved them.
The atmosphere.
Oh yeah. I just loved the way everyone was. I didn't know, I was in Overeaters Anonymous. I went to a lot of AA meetings because there wasn't enough recovery in the OA meetings. So I would just substitute the word food for alcohol.
Good.
And, I just loved how everyone was just so interested in helping each other. I loved it. It is
pretty powerful and unique for sure.
It's so unique because I come from, again, since I was 3 years old playing tennis, and I was I was 2 in the world. I was just so competitive. I don't care who you are. It was just competitive. And then as a career, I was in sales. It was very competitive. I hadn't really been in an environment that it was cooperative or that we're doing anything for. It was always a battle. Like my life was, and so that was just such a significant shift when I went into those rooms. And when I designed my therapy room, I really wanted it to be like the waiting room at a spa, the quiet room at a spa that you're waiting in for your masseuse to come get you. Like that was my intention for this room. So
yeah, I do.
There's
like
no
it.
books in there, and it's just a lot of flowy curtains and billowing material coming from the ceiling, and a lot of soft, again, Himalayan rock salt. Yeah,
or the rug.
Yeah, the rug.
Yeah,
beyond the family tree and kind of like a analysis of the person as like who they are, is there a like standard operating procedure that you take with each client, or is it case by case and you cater to them based off what you think they need?
Oh, what I'm doing in terms of the intake and assessment, I'm getting the same information. The things that you must have for trauma therapy are their goals, their trauma targets, the targets that they know these are your worst moments. Like the slideshow that if I ask you that that split second moment that will show up in your head whenever you think of the bad thing, that I'll take those trauma targets, those moments of your life where it just still feels like so unreal. And then I'm taking your adverse childhood events scoring and that your family tree and doing some relational history. I'm also looking at developmental history. Like, okay, how long were your folks together before you were conceived? Were there any previous pregnancies? Like doing prenatal and developmental history, all that. And then of course we're designing your treatment specific for you and based on what you're struggling with today and what your unresolved wounds are of the past. We have an idea when you come in, but invariably when I ask you to float back using your body sensation, you will not remember that experience. It will be something that you hadn't remembered for a long, long time. You're like, oh, I forgot all about that.
Mm-hmm.
I
relate to that.
Yeah, every client, because again, if you were conscious of your wounds, then you would have resolved them. So they're hidden like in a box in the attic, in the filing cabinet, and that you have no access to. But your nervous system does. And even though our brain is so beautiful and so brilliant and it can do such difficult things and it can work very fast, it literally is a slug compared to our nervous system. And the nervous system is what is feeding our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, and eventually our behavior. So if my nervous system is dysregulated, and that is essentially adrenaline and cortisol or fear, then these emotions, my body is feeding me fear. Here's what my emotion is going to be fear-based, and my thoughts and my feelings and eventually my behavior. So that's why the cognitive work, you do it, but it's so difficult because you're constantly trying to white knuckle to change your thoughts and feelings. And if you're just working here in the thoughts and the feelings and the behavior, you've literally missed the boat, because the boat is here in the body. That's where we need to go to reprocess and allow your nervous system to be sending the system safe enough message, love or safety, and then your emotions and your thoughts and feelings, and then you behave differently. I tell everyone, I have no idea what it's going to look like. I can promise you will show up differently by doing this work, because anytime I can touch those wounded parts and not re-traumatize, it's going to be healing for the client.
Yeah.
So once you get through the full intake process,
so then we're going into what I call the deeper healing work. So
what are some of the tools that you use?
Breath, right? So intentional breathing and the bilateral stimulation and the earth, and then what we call resourcing. So the resourcing is the attachment work that we started with you. And I tell people the most difficult part of the trauma work is the resourcing work, because our nervous systems know how to do the trauma. They're not familiar with the resourced part of us, or this attachment neurobiology, right? So we're setting up the anesthesia or the resourcing to be able to do the surgery. So we're just setting up the resourcing for the nervous system,
So the resourcing, are you talking about like me
Sacred
finding my
place.
safe space?
Yep, your sacred place
space.
and your spirit animal. And generally, I'm looking to get 2 or 3 attachment figures using nature, animals, higher power. So
Yeah.
if I can get 2 of those 3, I'm good to go. Then we can start. And then we'll use guided imagery. It's 15 different treatment modalities, all under this umbrella of the treatment.
All 15?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And you use all of them regularly?
Yes.
What are the most common ones? What do you see that has the best results, or the ones that are most heavily used because they have the most use purposes?
So what I would say is that okay, like.
Or do you want to just go through all 15?
No. It's the umbrella. The treatment modality I use is comprehensive resource model, and underneath that umbrella is the attachment model, the developmental model of attachment, The somatic experiencing, that is a model. So we're using the body sensations to help us to release, because your trauma has 3 aspects to it. And most people are familiar with the narrative. You can talk about, that's this phase
therapy.
1, right?
The
Talk
why.
therapy, the why. So that's the awareness and the insight. But then you also have to have access to the emotion and the body sensation. And these are where not everyone is accessing their body sensation. You talk about going into the heart. So you need to have all 3 of these working to be able to resolve that trauma. So as you're going into the traumatic experience, I'm orienting you to time and space, but I'm also staying connected to you through body sensation. So if I want to activate the distress, I'll ask you where in your body is that distress. I'll get a distress level of a 0 to 10, 10 being the most. Generally, when people are coming in, it's around an 8, 9, or 10. And then we're going to resource, bring in Sacred Place and the
redwood
animal.
forest with the deer running.
Yeah, I
through it.
remember this. Yeah.
And then I'm going to have your adult self start telling me about what happened in your current adult life. So for Kevin, he was getting mad about the chicken coop and the information his wife, and so he could activate that anger and distress in himself, activate that in his body. Where was it? Where was it in your body? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
And so we use that. So I basically will say,
I think it was my brain.
okay. And I'll ask him, is that sensation familiar or unfamiliar? And he'll say, oh, they use like 9 times out of 10. Because I'll know
Familiar.
if it's surface level stress that just needs to release. And then I'll ask his body to float back. And I say, float back through your 50s and 40s and 30s and 20s, asking your body, not your brain, to float back to the very first time you felt this sensation. It's something typically younger than 12. And you will have no idea. I remember mine floated back to a 10-year-old who basically, I broke my tennis racket and I was feeling like I am not good enough because my dad, I'm like, I need a new racket, because if I didn't win the tennis match, my body and mind believed I was going to die. I was going to die if I didn't win the tennis match. And that's where it went back. And then you try and see if your adult self, your current adult self, can come in and resource your younger part. And you'll see this a lot too. And they say, can you bring in your adult self to be kind, to be the moose to your younger adult or your younger 10-year-old? I was like, no, she's a loser. I'm not helping her. Forget it. And so my adult self had to go resource. And people get freaked out when their adult self doesn't want to have anything to do with their younger part. But that's all my internalized shame. There's so much there. And then you resource.
Yeah, I think what you're explaining is like a different type of trauma that, like, I started with the physical trauma, and then what you're explaining, and I remember like the whole chicken coop scenario was like, I was in the back, I had this chicken coop planned out, already built in my head, and I was going to make it this way, and then my wife comes along and says, "What if we do something like this?" And immediately my brain broke because she just like toppled all the cards or whatever. It's already done, honey. I know what I'm doing. I've got this planned out. Yeah, but what if we wanted to do this? And my brain snapped, and it had nothing to do with her. It just, I got
What's the negative belief you had about yourself? So if we take you,
yeah,
what is the negative
exactly. That's
belief?
what I was getting at.
Yeah.
The part that we found out was that as a child, I was like, I'm the problem. What I'm doing is no good. I'm a problem child, and I don't have any worth. Like, I'm not worth anything.
Yep, I'm not good enough. The survival
not good
terror.
enough.
That's the target, is I am not good enough. And so you can't tolerate you can't tolerate change or like, it's not very flowy, because the nervous system, it got really rigid when he was young to help him survive. He had to be that internalized bad child. And I see you smiling, and it's like hitting something here. Yeah.
Yeah. I just was thinking about, early on in recovery for me, I just was thinking about, it took a lot of work to recognize it, but I would try to control and manipulate everyone around me early on. And like when I first got out of prison, like if you thought differently than me or believed differently than me, you were a threat. And so like I wanted to mold my environment to make me feel safe.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How did we end up working together?
What do you mean?
If that was the case, you
Well,
must
I
have
mean,
done work around that.
Yeah, tons of work. I mean, I didn't 6 years, 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was 5 years. I probably had 5 years, at least 4.5, 5 before I
That's
asked
a
you to
good chunk of
sponsor me.
change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 4.5 years of mostly clean and doing work,
Good.
hanging out with the right people.
Yeah. Your process after like the first initial intake and getting the targets. Then I remember this latest round with you, we used the vibrating paddles.
Oh yeah, the tappers. Yeah. So that's bilateral stimulation. It's just
Yeah,
not
right.
right.
It was one paddle would vibrate and then the other paddle would vibrate. And I've heard people do.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've heard people do tapping, right? And then there was another bilateral thing. What was it? Oh, way back it was the pendulum. I remember
It hurt my arm too much to do that. I got trained that way, and I was like, I'm like, ooh, I got to anchor my elbow here, and then I got to do this, and I'm like, this is too hard on my shoulder.
Yeah, actually, a friend Stephanie was doing this. This was way back before. I don't even think insurance covers it anymore, or at all. Not anymore, but this was 20 years ago that they were doing an actual pendulum, like the timekeeper for
So that's
music?
EMDR, and it's 30. That's the original bilateral REM, like
That's
rapid
it.
eye movement.
Yeah.
and that is, again, there are aspects of EM. That's where this comprehensive resource model gets that bilateral stimulation is from EMDR. So that's one of the treatment
it's like
modalities that's
the
underneath that.
very beginning
Yes.
of all this.
Yes.
Yeah,
What's your
that's true.
favorite? What's your favorite modality or
It's
tool?
comprehensive resource model, like this one that, I mean, it basically
Well,
overwhelms the nervous system.
Under the umbrella,
the
though.
guided image, but it's all of it. It's not one aspect because
Got
this is what I would call a skill, not a technique. I don't use quote unquote techniques because your basic techniques would be applying a particular protocol to a particular problem. This is all organic, and I can pull from this and this and this.
So
what
it's
happened.
fluid.
It's fluid. There's
Yeah.
no protocol going on.
So,
Yeah.
for example, I recently.
So there's no set thing for any specific person.
No, that's the
No.
point I'm getting at is
for
that
sure. That's great.
we took care of
My brain likes that.
we took care of the physical PTSD, and then I went back for systemic over a long period of my life. That
Chronic relational trauma.
thank you. I don't know the term, but you do because you're the professional. It was like I'm no good. What I'm doing isn't good enough, or I'm a waste of time. All that self-talk.
How long ago was this? Your second session?
What was that, like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Oh, this is recent.
Yeah,
Nice.
very recent.
Right on.
But I was stuck in the old modality, or what do you call?
The old the old system, and this is actually what I'm saying. Like this is what I was talking about in the beginning. This is the attachment wound. What I would call a low hanging fruit is what we call single incidence traumas. So a rape or a car accident or a physical abuse. Now yours was chronic physical abuse, but those are more what I call low hanging fruit because they're not chronic relational. The chronic relational is the most devastating and severe and significant. And that's what we worked on this time around was the attachment wounds.
And we used a different way to attack it. Mm-hmm. Right? What was that way?
Sorry. Sorry, you're both talking. So
go ahead.
the different way was
We tried a certain type of resource first, but it wasn't clicking.
okay. So grids. We probably did sacred geometry and
then we did end up doing it was a contract.
Oh, yes. This is my.
That I've never even heard of
Yes,
that before.
that again was what I learned from the shaman. And yes, I don't use that often. And it's breaking a contract, and it's breaking a contract where basically neurophysiologically, if you were a child, and people probably say this a lot, it's like, I will never do that again, or I will always do this, or I will never let them feel this way. And there's something that's going on in their body that is then somaticized, and then it shows up in their relationships. And yeah, that was, oh, I forgot about that. That
Yeah.
was pretty
So
cool.
she had me like in my mind's eye write out the contract that I'm no good. I'm not worth anything. I'm the problem. All the things that my brain's telling me.
And how it's serving him too, and how that's serving him, how that keeps him safe.
Yeah. So that whole thing, and then I burned it.
Yeah, yeah.
I burned the contract.
Ripped it up, burned it, and it somatically it releases, and it's really powerful. It's very powerful. That's not something that I would do unless a client had cleared other traumas, because their nervous system, their mind, their body, their spirit wouldn't trust the process. That's really kind of advanced stuff. Yeah.
Can we
I'm advanced. Did you hear that?
yeah, advanced some way for sure. Yeah. What can we get a more specific, maybe working definition of chronic
Relational trauma.
chronic relational trauma? Can you give me a common example of what that might look like?
Okay. So as a child, let's go with the experience you had. So as a child, when the moment that you said to me, or that you said, I started acting out, that I knew that you were not getting your attachment needs met. Someone in your mother or your father, they weren't there. You didn't feel seen, heard, or understood, because no child wants to act out. No one wants to act out. When a child is either overreacting or underreacting, then we know that their attachment needs are not getting met. So I imagine that either your mom or your dad or both weren't parented or attuned the way they needed to be parented. And so they didn't know what they needed to do in order for you to feel seen. They didn't have the capability to do that. And
Would that be the same as nurtured?
nurtured, loved, nurtured, and protected.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's the advanced side coming out right there.
No, I just remember going through that with her before. Yeah.
He remembers a lot. That's good. That's good stuff. And I think it may be helpful, again, that Dr. Alan Shore. So that chronic relational trauma is the misattunement with the primary caregivers. And so what healthy attachment, what secure attachment looks like with mom and infant, it looks like, so mom and infant are making eye contact, and it looks like, delighted to see you, delighted to see you, delighted to see you. And then infant will turn their head to the side to digest all of the delight, and then back, delighted to see you, delighted to see you, delighted to see you. And it's not about like saying those words, it's just the experience of that. And that needs to happen thousands of times for that infant to have secure attachment. And again, that's love, nurture, protection. When I reach for my parent, I know with reasonable consistency that my emotional and physical needs will be met as that infant. So then I can then go on, that will pattern a secure attachment in my life, and I will have this reservoir inside of me, or that you've probably heard people say, this sense of home inside of me, that I can tolerate vulnerability in relationships. I can trust that someone's going to go away and then they're going to come back. I can trust being vulnerable in relationships and tolerate stress of relationships. If we have insecure attachment patterns, then you would either see a mother and a child, delighted to see you, delighted to see you, delighted to see you. Infant goes to turn away to digest all that delight, and the mother turns the infant back and requires delighted to see and delighted to see you, delighted to see you, delighted to see you. And then that overwhelms the infant's nervous system because it's too much. It needs time to digest. So now that's going to dysregulate the nervous system. The other way that a nervous system for an infant can get dysregulated is the parent is not, so the infant is like, delighted to see you, and mother's nowhere to be found.
Or dad.
Or dad, sorry. I use that because that's how we're trained.
I
And
was just thinking
you're
of
right.
somebody I know very close to me. Their trauma was the dad was emotionally unavailable.
And
Is it common that
So-
it's one or the other for the kid?
what's common is that you will have one parent that is unavailable either because of their own addiction, because of their own unresolved trauma, or because they're so preoccupied with their own life. They're working, they're paying attention to their phone, those types of things.
Or the parents are separated?
Parents are separated, and then maybe one of the parents has just enough to give that child just a little bit, but it's still going to be an insecure attachment pattern where it's on a spectrum. So people are going to be maybe mild, moderate, or severe, or have tendencies. And I'll name the attachment patterns now. So the insecure attachment patterns are, I mentioned earlier, where the infant that then turns into a child and eventually an adult, because these are the adult romantic patterns that get set up. If I am overwhelmed and I have a dysregulated nervous system, then there's two ways that I can get that attachment. One is anxious attachment. Pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. And you've probably seen a toddler learn 16 different ways to tantrum, and they need to get that attention because, again, the internal belief is, I'm not okay, but you're okay. So as long as I can get your attention, and that's actually what you were doing with your acting out, is I'm scared and I'm not okay, because the greatest need of every human being is to attach. That's our greatest need. That's our greatest primal need. Because if we don't, we die.
To attach?
To attach.
So a
To
relationship.
survive. Yes, to attach and to survive. Like there were Romanian orphans in the orphanage who were given food, shelter, and clothing, but were not touched, and they died. Food, shelter, and clothing, but they weren't touched or attuned to, and they died. And those that didn't die were very, very compromised in terms of their ability to function in life.
They were fucked up.
Yeah. and so then the other insecure attachment is, so if this infant is overwhelmed, either because you're going to go to parent and where are they? Where is she? Where is he? And they're never there. The infant can't get up and walk away. Let's say that I came in this room and I verbally abused you. You could either fight back or run away. This is like verbal and physical abuse to a child, and they can't do anything. So either they can tantrum or they withdraw. They disassociate and they withdraw. And the internal belief is, I'm okay, you're not okay. I'm okay, you're not okay. And that then becomes how they learn to attach. So now we grow up into our adult romantic relationships, and we will continue to repeat that attachment pattern. It's called reenacting the unresolved trauma.
What does that look like on the outside? Is that a person that's not sharing emotion?
Yeah, so that would be the emotionally avoidant, the person who withdraws, the avoidant, and the anxiously attached is the one that needs the chaos, and the one that is what we would call the codependent or the people pleaser, and they'll do anything they can to get the attention. And then the most significant and severe, which is what I had, is called disorganized attachment, and you'll toggle between the two. You don't have any attachment inside of you, and so you'll show up anxiously attached, and then again, this is not a conscious. And then unconsciously, when that doesn't work, then you withdraw.
Wow.
So you're just toggling between those two.
Is this a good time to segue into your childhood?
Sure. Oh,
Yeah, let's do
sure.
that.
Okay.
You're talking about it
All
already.
right. So let's see.
What did you find out about yourself through becoming a therapist?
Oh my gosh. I mean, and I still do every day. I mean, I'm still doing it. I mean, the generational trauma is where I am now. I think, by the way, I became a therapist about 15 years ago, and I've continued to do my trauma work, and I get work done every 2 weeks. I continue to get the work done so that I can be that, obviously, the best that I can be for me, but also because I'm always having remnants with clients, so I have to just continue to keep the
I
container.
was going to say, I mean, it's probably a hard place for you to be if you were not.
Yeah, you can't.
Maintaining some kind of
It's not
care.
responsible. So it's not responsible, and you will burn out.
Is it possible to we take a break real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta go to the bathroom.
All right, so we're getting near the end, and so we just want to try and just rehash how we see what you do as like a therapist for PTSD, and you see a lot of correlation within addiction, drugs, alcohol, food, anything else. And when you were talking earlier, when you said that it doesn't have to be those things, I was thinking, like I always have this thing in my mind, like a double bacon cheeseburger sounds so good, and then you said that it hits a dopamine trigger, and I go, oh, okay,
Sugar and fat specifically.
yeah. So now I'm thinking every time I have that thought about a double bacon cheeseburger, I'm just trying to get another hit, and so if I get one of those, I'm actually relapsing, right? I mean,
Well, again, it's not. Yes, I hear what you're saying.
Hypothetically.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but I also
I love double bacon cheeseburgers, by the way.
yeah, I want to be able to like I have a double bacon cheeseburger every once in a while. It's just a matter
I do
of
too.
if I continue to do a behavior even though it has negative consequences.
Right.
That's how you have to assess. And so if you are eating 3 double bacon cheeseburgers a day, then that's assessing. But if I'm having that once a week,
Yeah.
every once in a while, no, it's not an addiction. But yes, you may ask yourself, no, it's more of an overload of food and overuse. So one of the clinical definitions they would say for binge eating disorder is consuming 2,000 calories within 20 minutes and then having guilt and shame afterwards.
That sounds like so many of us.
I never do that.
You liar.
So that's just showing you that your nervous system is dysregulated.
2,000
and you're trying to look
calories
for
is a lot of food.
a relief. Well, I did that since I was 14 until 45. So yeah. And I would get away with it by over exercising, which again wasn't a compensatory.
extremes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dysregulated nervous system really has you going for things in the short term that are going to give you relief that will not serve you in the long run.
When you see clients that have addiction or are in recovery, do you do anything different for them, or is it the same routine?
No, actually, I actually love folks who are in recovery. When they come into my room and they have sponsor and they have regular meetings and they have their community, they're actually so teed up for this work. I mean, much more so than the woman who is going through a divorce and she doesn't have as much of a support system or anyone that actually can talk to her on a deep, meaningful level.
No awareness. Yeah.
And so, no, I actually, that's one of my favorite type of client is someone who's getting referred, who's in recovery and has their community and their sponsor. And so they have such a support system. And then we're just getting after their trauma that helps them to resolve any pattern in their life that they are bumping up against that they just can't seem to resolve themselves.
Yeah, with the steps or whatever. That makes total sense. There was one more question I had for you. In your experience, when you're treating somebody that comes to see you that's in recovery with addiction, have you ever found a point where you weren't able to help them?
That's a good question. So, I would say that there are clients that it takes much longer to drop into their body because their nervous system is so incredibly defended, or what we might call frozen or disassociated. I remember a client that it took a year of doing all of that breathing. I mean, there's some clients, of course, I work with Sac County Sheriff's Department as well. Their benevolent association would pay me to work with their deputies that have PTSD, and just asking a deputy to close their eyes, they don't feel that's too frightening to close their eyes. So, or
Especially, I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes, like, like a peace officer or somebody that's been through trauma, whether it's a loss of life or a shooting or whatever, or a fireman that's been through a really gnarly fire.
I've been there. I've been in a place where I am staying up. I was while incarcerated. I stayed up for about a week and a half, and because
To be safe.
there was something coming, and I was aware that it was coming, and I needed to make sure I was awake for it. And I couldn't close my eyes for nothing.
So that's hard for you to get breakthrough with
some clients. And so it may take longer, and maybe they don't feel like they want to stick with it, right? So that's where I would say maybe it's not that we couldn't help them, but they are just
Weren't
being
ready
frustrated, or they're frustrated with the process, or I was just one of the stepping stones on their journey, right? And,
right. That's a good point. I do remember after we closed out the first session that I had with you, I can see, and just talking with friends, I can see that it would not work if I hadn't been honest. And that's what I tell people now. Said, if you go and do trauma therapy, it will not work for you unless you're honest. You have to be honest about everything.
And I also know that there are parts of each human being that because it's a collaborative process, and if it's someone's rage that they want to work on, or if it's someone's mood disorder, that's what they want to work on, and that's what they're ready to be honest about. But there's lots of other parts of them that they're not showing me, and that's okay. I don't need to know it all, but also, yes, the honesty around if they're so concerned that they're not doing it right, like the body sensations, because no one understands, like it's like a foreign language. Like, where do you feel that in your body? Huh? There's like 150 different places that emotions are held in the body. And like, what? And then I'll ask them, what's the size? How much room does it take up? What's the shape? What's the color? What's the temperature? What's the texture? What's the sound? What's the smell? What's the taste?
That was frustrating.
Yes.
Trying to pinpoint that stuff for
And
you.
so then people may start telling you what they think you want to hear, but I have been doing this long enough that I have a sense of when someone's really in the experience, which I could experience your experience. I can experience your experience, because what I'm doing is I'm actually co-regulating with you. I'm allowing you to borrow my nervous system so I can stabilize your nervous system. So when we get into that space, everyone is connected. But until we can get into that space, it's really hard because they've never, that's not something that's familiar. So yes, it's helpful when they've had other people tell them that, like, no matter how weird or woo-woo this sounds, just trust the process.
Yeah. Well, those of us in recovery are familiar with that saying, trust the process, right?
Yeah. I remember the first hug I got from a man in recovery. It freaked me out, completely freaked me out. And I didn't know until way later it was just the exchange of compassion from one man to another. And
yes, it's scary.
If you haven't felt it before, you don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and it can be
terrifying.
Yeah. Scary. I mean, fortunately, it kept me. I was more after the hug. It was in the beginning of the meeting, so it kept me alert. And it was my first meeting, and so I paid attention. And I could relate. There was some relatability, and that fortunately was part of like there might be something here for
catalyst.
me.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't know that I was panicking because I felt another man show compassion or feel their compassion or love. Yeah.
That's so powerful, though.
It's
That was
wild.
like a transformative moment for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So powerful.
Yep.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, even from not completing the full treatment, I still to this day have carried benefits from it. So it's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I get to take what I learned from you and help other people. Not clinically.
I hear you.
But
Yes.
like
Tools, man.
so many people, like when I share a meeting or share some of my story about like the violence and growing up that way and how I used to react and not respond, and I that I no longer carry firearms to meetings anymore, or stuff like that, right? And quite often I'm like, they're just blown away that I would be
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
and because I'm not anything like that today.
Right.
And so a lot of it has to do with the work.
Well, a lot of it has to do with you all. Like as you're talking, and again, as I hear you all, I know that you have very strong recovery because you've also sent folks that you are your sponsees to me, and like I'm delighted to work with them. But it also has to do with how strong your recovery is. And also, as you're talking, I'm like, man, you guys are doing phase 1 of therapy. You guys are the talk therapists, and that's why it's so wonderful for me.
Oh,
to
that's
work
kinda cool.
with that. Like you are doing the phase 1 of therapy.
Advanced.
I mean, you're funny.
We're gonna call him not Kevin A. We're gonna call him Kevin Advanced.
Well, speaking of you, why don't we go ahead and plug you? And I mean, you're not sponsoring anything. This is just
Right.
Tell us how people get a hold of
Yeah.
you, if there's a wait, what city you're located in.
Okay. Yes, I wanted to come do this because I just felt like it's good information, and I do not need any more clients. You can get a hold of me at jenyoungcounseling.com. Jen with one N, all one word, jenyoungcounseling.com, and then you'll find my phone number and email, everything there. And I'm in Folsom, California. I currently have a 6-month waiting list. But please, if you do reach out, then I will, if we're not a good fit, I will help you find someone that does the same type of work that I do and help you get connected with someone that would be appropriate for you. I have shifted my practice to more of what I call an intensive type of practice. So what I am offering is I work every other weekend, working with clients from 9:30 to 4, and then you come in on Saturday and Sunday. And what happens is you'll get a piece of trauma work done. So if that survival terror for you is I am not good enough, you will complete that piece of work in that weekend, which would take you, if you were coming in on a weekly basis, it might take you 3 months if you were coming in on a weekly basis. So that wait list is about 6 months. I think I may have one the last weekend of May. It's some people listen to this at different times. So anyway, the wait list is about 6 months long, and then you would do the intake 3 to 4 intake and assessment appointments, and then you would also
start to work.
do the intensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the way I work. But
if they couldn't, I mean, like if you're unavailable or if they're in a different state or something, you are a proponent of
yes, referring
trauma work.
Yes, trauma work is like, you can't just jump straight into trauma work. But like as long as you're in recovery and you're sober, and they, I don't have a timeline. Folks are ready at different times, but it would be safe to say 1 year of sobriety would be about the time.
Yeah, from what you were saying about
A round of steps.
yeah, exactly. Like people in the program or in recovery being teed up to do the trauma work or PTSD work or whatever that is. having done at least one round of steps, because you don't want to go in with a clean slate if you have these other tools to tee you up,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah.
So working a round of steps could help you knock away some of our low-hanging fruit.
Yes. And
Right?
so how do you
You
generally
hear that, everybody? Do your step work.
what kind of time frame do you share with people around doing a round of
It's a year's is pretty common,
Okay.
Yeah.
but everybody's pace is so different.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's
Yeah,
different
it's-
per person.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that's exactly here too. Like in a good general rule of thumb is a year, but you may have had someone who's been in therapy since they were young, right? And so then they'd be ready to work with me sooner because they've already.
Absolutely.
Everyone has, but in a general rule of thumb,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think having a round of steps is a really good jumping off point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter how long it takes you.
It would sure help going into trauma therapy.
Yes.
To have
and
worked
you
around
spend less
steps.
time in trauma because you won't have. Then I won't be doing what you could have done for free in the 12
Well,
steps.
right. Just like
Honestly.
identifying feelings and
Yes.
getting in tune with your heart and all
th-
that stuff.
And that is it's not my wheelhouse. My love is doing the trauma work. That's what I
Cool.
love to do.
Jennifer, thank you very much for coming out and
Yeah, I
being our
really
guest.
appreciate it.
Yes,
Grateful we
Yeah.
got to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
cool.
excited to get this out. This is not our norm,
Yes.
but
Good
Hope it can hang.
good little change of pace.
right, yeah, and like I said, Josh and I have both noticed that 90% of everybody that we've ever interviewed had trauma in some form, right?
Yeah, and
And we're gonna dig it out.
thank you guys for having me. It's been my honor and pleasure, and I'm so proud of both of you. So
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Love you guys.
Love you. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate you being here and being part of this community. Just a quick heads up before we wrap. The people we talk to on this show are just sharing their own personal stories. They do not speak for any specific recovery program or group. It's just their experience, strength, and hope. Well, that's it for now, and please remember that you can follow us on any of your streaming platform that you listen to, and somewhere in there on that streaming platform there is a donate button if you care to help out with our monthly fees that we have to pay to produce each episode, and there's a follow button. There's also somewhere on your streaming platform you can text us and send us a response or email or check-in. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you.